Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy and proud to be here in the second day of HITEX conference. And I'm happy, my voice is high. Somebody's doing this, okay. So my name is Mehdi Faraj. I will be moderating the panel and hopefully we will do a fruitful discussion with my beloved experts and panelists. Here I have with me Mr. Herwig Neuer, the commercial counselor at Austria Advantage, who is really experienced in the MENA region, Arab countries, Iraq, and in the region regarding business communication, networking, and clean and renewable energy, which is linked to our subject, which is all about sustainable energy and the role of sustainable energy in Iraq's transaction and transmission economic for a better Iraq. And here I have respectful Dr. Ramazan Hamza, who is a good friend of mine from the Hawk University. I'm so happy to see you here, who is always frustrated and concerned regarding water security, renewable energy, clean energy, and he's always, any conference related to environment, you can see Dr. Ramazan. So happy to have you here. Also my good friend Bartek Gershon from Poland, from Grinton, the CEO of Grinton company, which is almost about smart house. And he is new in the region with his insightful ideas, and hopefully he will have something in his basket for the region regarding renewable energy. So why I would like to highlight some points regarding the energy in Iraq and the sustainable energy in Iraq before I start with my respectful panelists. So I would like to give you some facts, some numbers. So Iraq's power generation capacity is 30 gigawatts, and Iraq needs more than 30. Iraq's demand in last year, in 2022, summer was almost about 34.4 gigawatt, which is there is 3 gigawatt lag. But meanwhile, Iraq's capacity for production electricity, which is 80% of fossil fuel, not environmentally friendly, is about 23. So we have a big gap in here. And also in the last century, or in 21st century, Iraq increased 2 degrees Celsius due to the climate change and environment. So Iraq is counted the 5th most vulnerable country in the world for the carbon dioxide emission. In 2020, the estimate increased to 180 million tons of carbon dioxide into the layers of stratosphere and atmosphere and in the world, which is a disaster. Iraq is not related to Paris Agreement for the environment issue, but luckily Iraq has established a kind of organization which is called Nationally Determined Contribution, and they are trying their best for 2030 to decrease the carbon dioxide up to 10%. I don't know if this number is big or small for you, but I was in the 24th Energy Conference in United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi. Emirates and Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, China, West, they are deciding for 2030, zero carbon dioxide to our planet Earth, and they go for renewable energy. So, I don't want to interrupt you with more numbers, but based on my study, Iraq needs to take an action. So I will start with my expert panelist, Mr. Herwig Neuer from Austria Advantage. You are experienced in the region. Tell me a success story in Vienna, in Namsa, as we say in Kurdish, Austria, that you have done, that we can learn from you. What do you have? How we can survive for a better sustainable energy, better renewable energy?
Thank you so much, Mari, for the introduction. I think there is, I don't want to pick out one success story because there are too many when it comes to renewable energy, to be honest. I don't want to brag how fantastic Austrian companies are in this field, but I think even inside Europe, when it comes to renewable energy and green tech, Austrian companies and Austria also, the government, we were pioneers, because I think we realized very early, already in the 70s, that this is the subject we want to do something, we have to do something. And maybe also because Austria does not have fossil fuels, and now we are happy that we don't need them because nowadays 80% of the electricity generated in Austria is coming from renewable energies. And this is a huge asset, and this history made also the industry in Austria so strong that the R&D is very high. We have university courses. There is a lot of brain going in this subject, and this is a subject where most of the Austrians like to talk about it, and we all want to share our know-how, and we want to share this also with Iraq and the Kurdistan region.
I see. So do you count Austria as a successful country regarding sustainable energy?
I believe so. Of course, now looking at the Russian-Ukrainian war, of course, like every European country is very concerned about the energy security.
Based on your previous experience, what have you done in any in the region in Iraq, something that helps assist us for enhancing the environmental issue on climate change in Iraq? Is there any flagship company or projects, enterprises that you can mention?
There is quite a few actually. I mean, a lot of Austrian companies, they might be not so well known to the public, and maybe like in the last couple of months you heard like that Total is now doing a solar project, and Siemens. I mean, Siemens is an example. Siemens is such a big company, a multi-role sectoral, and it's known to be a German company, which is true, but there is a lot of Siemens Austria inside Siemens. So a lot of components from Siemens are produced in Austria and are managed from Austria. This is just one example, but also like when it comes to green tech in Iraq, I want to mention the company ILF. They are a consulting and engineering company, and they are very active in the whole country, in Kurdistan, but also in the south, for instance in Basra, where they're building right now a big desalination project, and this is one of the two companies I'm very proud of.
Okay, Dr. Ramazan, let me pass my question to you. You are always related and concerned about water security, hydraulic electricity, clean energy. How do you evaluate KRG? Don't you think like in Iraq we have wind, we have good sun for solar system? How do you evaluate it, and are you happy with the development that 2 weeks ago KRG, the PR, Mr. Masroor Barzani opened a 25 gigawatt project about solar panel. So are you happy with this movement?
Well, first, thank you very much for you and for my colleagues. Really, we have to be happy. Any steps in this site that Kurdistan to be a pioneer for Iraq, because we have more stable, political, economical, all this is more stable than Iraq. So when you have something here, even as a pilot project, we have to be happy with that. So let's come what we have in Kurdistan in particular and what we have in Iraq in general. Iraq have potential keys to work toward renewable energy. And this is the time, even if it's maybe a little bit late, but it's the time Iraq have to work seriously in that nexus, which is food, water, or water, food, energy. And if we come to the water, we know, as you mentioned, Iraq is facing a very big catastrophe, not small crisis, but a big catastrophe of the future of Iraq with this little amount of water and with what we have in the climate change. We experience this, what we have in our 4 seasons of drought and little water discharge in our rivers. Since centuries, we don't have such quantity of water or such discharge in our rivers. So, climate change plus the politics of the riparian countries and not the bad, let us say, the mismanagement of water resource, all these push you to look for how to secure your food. When you want to secure the food, you have to look for energy. When you want to look for energy, you have some fluctuation with the fuel and the fossils energy. In this case, you have to look for alternative. The alternative is there, abundant of solar in Iraq and in Kurdistan, abundant air for turbines and wind fields.
So let me get you back to this point. So do you believe that Iraq generally and KRG, there is a possibility that we can get benefit from the sun and turbines and wind and water and dams?
Yeah. Let us say first sun, which is easy and because technology is there. Wind fields is okay in high topography and geology and desert. Number two, we have even in Kurdistan more chance to have hydropower from many dams. And this is also one of the chances. We have geothermal, which is very potential and nobody now touch it. It is the time to just evacuate Iraq from this garbage and waste materials. So waste to energy is one of the potentials due to this big urbanization we have even now we see in Erbil or in all cities. So all these kind of waste, where to go? So we have to use it for energy, for heat. All these Iraq and Kurdistan have good and potential sound base to start with it. They start already, as you mentioned. Day before yesterday, we're celebrating the International Day of Environment, the Golden Jubilee, and Iraq have 1,000 megawatt in Ratawi field by French Total Company in Basra. So the same, we have some activities in Kurdistan. So we are happy with this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramazan Hamza. Mr. Bartek Gershon, let me get back to you with the answer from Dr. Ramazan that he believed we have the potential from the wind, from the sun, from the dams, hydraulic. And I know, like Greenton and you are related in regarding micro, smart house and this stuff. Usually people from Kurdistan, as long as I'm informed and I have the knowledge, they criticize they cannot get benefit from renewable energy and natural sources because we have big demand and the production is slow. So what can you do as Greenton, or how companies like yours in this regard can be helpful to make enhancement in the region? Do you believe you can do it?
Yeah, I believe. Good afternoon for everybody. Let's first thank you very much for introduction and very tough and interesting question. Yeah. So, frankly speaking, there is a big potential for each country in the managing energy. So when comes to the source of the energy, of course, there is a big potential. And it can be somehow addressed, as you said. And sometimes maybe there are some challenges to build a new technology, to bring them, to take it from the international market, etc. However, still, from this macro perspective, a lot of these macro challenges are addressable in some time, maybe longer, maybe shorter. However, still, at the end, there are the consumers of the energy, and as you asked, they are afraid if they can be beneficial for such a technology solution like we provide to the market or not. And the answer from the technology point of view is yes. B2C customers, homeowners, household members can be beneficial for such systems like the home automation systems to manage the energy coming to their home. How can be managed? In a very specific way, however, in a very big number of patterns how we can do this. Just to give you a sample introduction to the possibility of the technology standing behind the energy efficiency. Maybe there will be time to tell more. However, let's imagine that such a challenge like climate control at home can be totally managed by technology standing behind us, standing behind member of the household. How? today, air cooling or even heating when it's needed. And as far as I know, we are at the region where both challenges exist. So we have to air condition our homes right now, cool down. However, we have to warm them up in the winter. And the technology standing behind this approach support us in turning on air conditioning when someone is coming to the home, using, for example, geolocalization. Today, we can also switch off air cooling when we are leaving a home automatically. We can also, for example, secure our, let's say, costs of paying for bills for the energy used for lights using something which is called following the household member light. So imagine that the light can follow the member of the household and be, let's say, turned on when it's needed. So technology supports right now everyone who wants to be focused on energy management, everyone who would like to use sustainability approach as something interested. Of course, there are at first some macro challenges,
Okay.
as always. However, from the micro point of view, technology can be supportive.
So technology. Okay. So let me get back to you, Mr. Herwig Nober. So how the international partnership and like your projects can assist for a better sustainable energy implementation in the region? Like international partnership is needed or not really?
Yeah, I think international partnerships are always beneficial, but it should be done in a very, let's phrase it like a non-arrogant way. Like I think people here are in the whole Middle East are a bit scared, like, oh, these Austrians or the Europeans, they're talking about things that don't work here. So we have to, it must be a communication on eye level, like from one partner to the other. Of course, like my position is, I see myself as a matchmaker, whatever this matchmaking looks like, but we listen to the local demand, and then my work and of my colleague and my Iraqi colleague, my Kurdish colleague is sitting in the audience, is very active here to find the right match between the industries, no matter if the client is the government or a private company. And I think there is a lot, hopefully the Iraqi and the Kurdish people and companies can learn from.
So have you conducted any successful model in Jordan as you base it there, or in the Arab countries similar to Iraq, similar situation? A successful model of sustainable energy, clean energy, like you from Astoria Advantage. Have you done something like that? Or are you planning, if there is any possibility, to do something in Iraq?
Dr. Ramadan mentioned before the topic waste to energy.
Yeah.
As we speak, there is actually a very nice, and we are very excited about it, a project in the pipeline, and it's already really taking off the ground, where an Austrian company is realizing here an incineration plant to collect the waste, and you know, like there is enough waste to create energy and electricity out of it at the end. And I think this is just one example, and like it's a little bit of a pioneer project, and the reason because you know there's a lot of skepticism because a lot of investors they don't see like, okay, like we create a lot of recovery costs soon, because you know, like green energy, renewable energy is something for the future. It's not like investments in green energy is not something on a short term. I say, okay, like the return of investment we're gonna have in 2 years, 3 years, but this is for our future. This is a projects for our children, for our grandchildren, hopefully. And also like waste to energy, like Iraq is a country that depends a lot of imports, but there needs a lot of change of mentality to think, okay, like actually we don't need to import this. If we have, if we're starting like a circular economy, we don't need to import so many raw materials.
So do you believe Iraqi people believe that they have fossil fuels and they don't need importees from, for example, outside the world? Because now we have fossil fuel. 80% of the energy that we produce in Iraq is based on firing fossil fuels.
Yes.
So, do you think the international cooperation and international coordination can be an alternative for that?
I strongly believe so, and I think, I mean, this is we are not allowed to think in bubbles anymore, and I think this is maybe also big problems. We all know the dynamics between Erbil and Baghdad, but also with the neighboring countries. You have to include your neighbors. Maybe at one point Iraq will be even able to sell energy or electricity to Syria, hopefully in the near future. This is just one example that the whole region, not only the Kurdistan region, but the whole Middle East needs to be more integrated.
Dr. Ramazan,
Yeah.
as earlier I mentioned that you are concerned regarding this subject. We have dams, we have winds, we have suns. And I know there are hundreds of research that has been conducted from your institute, the Strategic Institute.
Yeah.
So, is there any result, any reply for your studies? Are the government, central government and KRG government, are they really worried and welcoming your reports? And do you believe that you can do something through researching and studies?
Yeah. Well, we have to add also the biomass. It is also a potential source of renewable energy. Let's come that Iraq here, when they signed the Paris Agreement, this is one of the obligations to have low carbon environment. This is one of the reasons that now a government, both in Baghdad and in Erbil, they have to diverse their energy source and go toward this potential source that we mentioned before. So, the thing is here, climate change, adaptation and mitigation also is one of the main factors to have what we say disaster risk reduction. Now we are facing this. So if we have to do this reduction of disasters that facing especially peoples in the middle and southern part of Iraq, there is a very big problems and challenge facing the government. So to have diversity of this source, one advantage is that rural areas can get electricity and energy for heating and for their uses and for their what we call agricultural activities, which is very difficult for government to supply them with the traditional or from the network. Number two, the other advantage of this renewable Iraq, they need the storage of this. This can be stored maybe from the hydropower. This can be pumped and will be used in the peak time to be used, or in the batteries, which is from the solar or from other source. So in this case, there is no way the government have to go very seriously and to have a framework of regulation to adapt and to go to reduce the bureaucracy and to have a good environment and climate for investors, to welcome them and to give them chance to start with this new technology and to have this to be as a part. As you mentioned, that Iraq by 10% people is looking for zero. And we are still in 10% or 50%, which is very low. Iraq have, the time is that, so to work with this from environmental, from the impact of the environmental, from the public health, even from the social and cultural point of view, people, they are inspired. They have looking for affordable life in the rural areas, even in the urban. And people are not happy when they say the summer knock the door. When the summer knock the door, in Iraq, everybody is very unhappy. Why? Because high temperature, sandstorm, no water, water scarce, no electricity. All these push people to have this and to push even the government. And there is other points, we will mention it, how companies and how the partnerships can help Iraq and how Iraq have to give facilities to these people to go toward both of them to have this renewable energy and hand both of them to have to work in the tariff. The price is very important, less price and continuous energy and clean, because we say clean energy, green energy, renewable energy, new energy, all these names, all these idioms help people to have this and to push government to have these companies, to have this technology. Iraq don't have this technology. You have to train people.
Okay, Dr. Ramazan, let me abbreviate something. If Iraq government keep this way calmness regarding this issue and don't take any initiative, do you believe there will be climate migration?
Now there is climate migration and there is a change in demography and there is conflict in the some areas which is not announced officially, but we as experts we know, and this in unemployment and also the what we say the social textures of the community. Now it is fragile. It's very fragile. Iraq is one of the countries which is number 5.
So if the Iraqi Prime Minister, let's imagine he is among the audience, what do you call him?
I will call him to start today before tomorrow. Iraq have good money. Iraq have good revenue from oil price. Iraq have good, what we said, human resource. Their people, they can easily, if you go to give training for some people, maybe for 1 month in Iraq, 1 or 3, 4 days is enough to take this technology and to start with this. There is mind, there is people, there is money, so need some regulation, need some mechanism to have for finance, and even Iraq can be, if they can utilize this from the green fund for the climate change, they can get good fund, and they can help the community with very low loan and less tax and all these things.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramazan Hamza. Let's go back to Mr. Bartek Gershon. I would like to reiterate my question in another form. So, do you believe the development of sustainable energy in Iraq will make any kind of contribution for a better Iraq or better climate change or a better developed Iraq?
Yeah, I think so. However, coming back a little bit to the questions and to summarize that in some way, I think, for sure, I've got some feeling, let me express that there is a lot of assets in Iraq to be somehow used to go in the path of the sustainable energy way. And of course, there is also some international experience in how to do this on a big number of benchmarks coming from all over the world. And as you said at the beginning, Austria has 80% of energy produced by renewable sources, yeah? The average for Europe is 30, as far as I know. Asia-Pacific region, 40% of energy produced from renewable sources, yeah? US, based on gas, 20% of renewable energy. So, so there is some, let's say, good benchmarks. And taking into consideration the assets and these benchmarks, I believe that from the macro perspective, from the government perspective, if there is a goal defined for everyone, and maybe this is the biggest challenge, to find common goal for coming from each region, and maybe not only limited to Kurdistan, to Iraq, however, to whole, let's say, region, let's say, then probably the ministry, the government should concentrate on this to find a consensus in setting up the goal, and then probably it would be easier to use assets, use international experience, and to finally set up the energy system on the base. In the future, decades, probably. Maybe it will take time.
So is
However,
there any...
based on the benchmarks coming from the international market.
So based on your experience regarding this international subject, do you see any barriers or any struggles or any shortcuts from Iraq? Like why Iraq is not doing?
Good question. I see some. Of course, everything starts from the money at the beginning, yeah? So probably the funding can be a challenging one. Of course, from the macro point perspective, we've got the big issue of, right now, subsidization of the tariff for the energy, as far as I know. So from the end user habits, even there is no need to pay for energy, as far as I'm informed about the about the approach in Kurdistan and Iraq in terms of the, let's say, collecting money coming from the energy bills, for example. So finally, maybe let's define that the money can be a quite challenging task. However, there are some solutions to do this. Let's switch somehow the prices, as we already said a little bit. Yeah? Maybe let's try to use some benchmarks of co-finding some hardware, let's say, to boost setting up solar energy, to boost, let's say, the energy coming from the solar. So, from my experience, even from my country, I mean Poland, we see a big boost of solar energy, let's say, production after some subsidization of the hardware coming from the government. So, let's say, defining the question in the other way, what are the boosters?
So do you believe in Poland you have successful story about solar panel?
We are starting to have.
Okay, but I have been in Poland. You don't have sun. How is that?
We have sun, however, the sun is limited only to half of the year. However, if you take into consideration the approach towards the energy banks, energy magazine, if you take into consideration smart usage of the energy, then even in winter, you can use the sun to charge your electric vehicle.
So frankly speaking, you have little bit sun based off my experience in Warsaw, and you have solar panel. What do you say to Iraqi government and KRG government when we have too much sun, like almost entire the year, and we don't have something, like it's all about 5% in Iraq?
Maybe you have too cheap gas and oil.
We have oil.
Everything is all about the money, finally. So maybe the production of the energy based on the foreign sources, it's cheaper.
Thank you for the direct, frank answer.
As always.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we were invited for, right?
Exactly, yeah. God gave us this gift, maybe we believe. Yeah. So, Mr. Herwig, let me ask the exact question. What do you think the most important barriers and challenges in front of development of sustainable energy in Iraq? Like, what's your experience? What do you see?
I completely agree what Bartek said, that to create, the government needs to create subsidies that people are motivated, like also independent energy producers, that they get the motivation to start their own little solar power plants that might feed electricity to the grid later on. That's why, like, there needs to be not only, of course, a legal framework is very important, like certainty, like legal certainty. This is, I get the question a lot from entities here and in Baghdad, like about investors. Like we can only attract investments, and especially renewable energy investments, when you give us legal certainty. When you say, okay, if you do this and this, we can provide you this and this. So this is a key. And a second thing is something very basic. It's just awareness, education, and training. Like to let people know, okay, if you keep throwing your garbage outside, this will affect all of us. And so there's so many little things that needs to be done. But on the other hand, I can also understand the position of Iraq. I mean, we have seen so many conflicts in this part of the world for the last decades, not only years, but decades. That's why somehow maybe it was also used as an excuse. It's like, you know, we have so many other priorities, like security comes first. And of course, this is much understood. And here in Austria, we are on a very comfortable level. Like we have a pretty smooth sailing politically for the last, I would say, even 70 years after World War II. We had no major conflicts in our country. That's why the circumstances where we started the industry and getting really into renewable were a completely different level. And of course, like the main income of Iraq is to sell oil to the world. This is what generates the money here. And you cannot request from the government, okay, like to take away their source of income. I mean, the oil is still coming out from the ground and it will not finish anytime soon. But you have to look for alternative and you have to diversify the industry and the economy right now.
Okay, let's act like we don't have this gift from God, the oil and the stuff, and we have to go with the development of sustainable energy. How do you think regarding creation of job opportunities and the development and awareness in the community, in case if Iraq decided to go with the sustainable energy? So do you think there will be some job creation, or there will be reducing, or what will happen to the people, the communities?
Of course, certainly. I mean, also on a long term, there are so many people who work right now in the petrol industry. On a long term, you have to think how we can shift parts of the capacity to something different and to create job profiles, how to become a renewable energy expert, to become like a solar expert. And this were also we and then other foreign companies, foreign entities, foreign governments can help. And we share the expertise with you and when it comes to training and to education. And this is just one step where also I think partnership and cooperations are very necessary and useful.
So can you give me some enterprises and projects in Iraq, or there is nothing that you can mention? Like, based on your knowledge, Iraq is doing something in regard sustainable energy? Are you aware of any projects or not?
I mean, sustainable. But the project I mentioned before is a sustainable energy to make to create energy from waste. Is one project like this, I guess. But solar, is one of our key sectors in Austria where there's a lot of solar thermal is a field where Austrian company have a lot of expertise. And they're very strong in services and in know-how, but also in the production of these devices.
Thank you. Dr. Ramazan, maybe if I tell this information to our friends from Poland and Austria, maybe they don't believe. But as you are from Kurdistan and you know that we use and waste a lot of energy, especially electricity. So do you believe sustainable energy and renewable sources, renewable energy, clean energy, eco-friendly energy, do you believe we can survive with this amount of energy? What do you think about the awareness of the community that we have to shut down our electricity and our lights when we sleep? So how do you evaluate this? Even if it's success with technology, with international communities, but what about the people and the population?
Well, you know, when you deal with the community, you have to take the cultural forms and cultural value of these people. This is very important. How to involve them in the decision maker, how to respect their culture, and how these people can good benefit from this kind of energy. We need national campaigns, we need town hall conference, we need school curriculums to be changed toward how to save this energy, how to use energy from the nature, how to respect the nature. All these things will come when you have multi roles, what we say, in different sectors. Religion is very important. How religion, in all religions, they respect the energy, they respect the fire, they respect the light. They have some sort. Here we need what we call the governance or progressive governance to be one of main regulations that to be adopted, because here need commitment, here need transparency. Transparency is very important. And people will see that this is unity, or people, they are in the same town or the same village, in the same country, they are getting the same tarifa, the same amount of what we call now from the renewable energy or the traditional energy. Here, the people, the awareness will be going more up or more less. Now, I will give you one of the example which is very bad, really, and I'm sorry for that to say, and this is one the things is that now start in our Duhok. We have some collectives or some cities. They said, okay, people, instead you have two sources of both, they are fuels from generators and from the national grid. They said, okay, you like to have 24 hours, 7 days electricity, everybody pray, and they are happy with that. They give them some tarifa, they give them some sort of price. So you have your card, you can use this, and I will charge for that.
So what do you think Iraq has to do as soon as possible, as urgent possible, regarding the awareness of wasting energy, especially in rural areas in the country?
This is the problem. Let us say, complete this. When the people agree, they have their card and they agree on the price, after less than 2 months, they increase the price, they multiply the price by 10. And people, they are not happy with 24 hours from one source. So this is the problem. The government have to be very clear with the community to have the equity and transparency. This is one of the basics you can build on this. When I trust you, trusting is very important in this new sector. This is new sector. You know, when we are a child, we use this, what we call this pinwheel by wind. Now, people, if you show this in the school to these children, to these students, that this spinwheel now is working 24 hours and giving you energy. In Spain, you enjoyed this. These people will be happy. People want, first from the government, some regulation and commitment to have this transparency and the price to be, not to be changed between 1 2 months, to be gradually after years. You know, this is within the strategy. We don't have the strategy. Government of Iraq, unfortunately, they missed the strategy toward sector of water, energy, and food, and we are facing big problems because we are not applying what we put in our regulation. This is very commitment to this will give trust to people. People will believe. For example, when I have this solar panels and I have guarantee of 2 years, then for 6 months I have some problems with the voltage, with the battery, with the storage, then people, you know how this like propaganda is very easily through this media, all this Afghan media, people will talk about this, which is one of the best source we can depend on. This. So we have to have the quality, good technology, good international partners to best and to build on that. This will have good chance to go toward the renewable energy and to don't have this waste. They're making some equilibrium between what government needs from the taxes and get too much money and the basic requirement of the community. We don't regard this, we don't take this in consideration, unfortunately.
Okay, I believe you have a comment, Bartek.
Yeah,
Yes.
If I may, I would like to add some 2 main statements on the basis of your questions.
Okay.
I think that, first of all, in terms of the people, we have to think about the solution, how to tell them about the energy, about the sustainable energy, in the way they won't be afraid of. Yeah? And your question about the employment level
Yes.
is a very good one. This is one of the biggest threats, probably, of doing something new, more in other way. One more time on the European base, let's say benchmark, I can say that boosting the sector of the solar panels installations boosts the level of the number of the high-skilled electricians, high-skilled installers, and boost new businesses and new, let's say, even jobs like the energy experts you said, like the professionalists, focus on new technology, let's say, granting us incremental energy coming from renewable energies. So for sure, there are new jobs, and there is no threat, and threat of course exists. However, there is no need to be afraid that the big depreciation of the number of employees happens. So let's manage the threats. The second one, let's speak to the people in the language of benefits. Let's show them the benefits coming from the new renewable energy sources. And one more time, from my perspective, technology supports us in this, let's say, speech, in this message to the people. And if someone looks for savings, if someone looks for the control, if someone needs analysis, someone needs information, other people need comfort, other people need some incremental value coming from the increment of the value of the real estate, for example, having a solar system at home. This is the way how we would like to introduce something new, however still with some new benefits. So summing up, let the people don't be afraid, and let's speak to them with the language of benefits. I would sum up, yeah.
Thank you for your contribution into the point, but you cannot escape. Again, I have my question for you. So my question for you is about your business, about your experience, about smart house and all this household awareness. So as earlier I mentioned it, we waste energy. We want our houses to be shiny day by night. We love it. We don't care whatever the bill is, how big the number is. So how you can survive in such a situation in Middle East and building, because you told me that you are related to some big projects about smart houses.
Yeah.
So how this technology and smart houses can be a part of the sustainable energy in Iraq?
Okay. You mentioned about the lightning. And of course, let's keep it at the maximum level. However, still you can use the LED technology to reduce the cost, for example, of the lightning, yeah? I'm not sure if you would like to have, let's say, shining house when you sleep. If you do not want such a, let's say, functionality, then of course we can automatically turn off the lights in the night, for example, or maybe limit the level of the, let's say, lighting during the night. However, let's keep the lighting away. Still, there is a big opportunity. And I would even say that the bigger, because as far as I was informed, in Iraq, 34% of the household consumption coming from the lightning. However, much more consumption of the energy comes from climate control. So when we take this, let's say, functionality to control the climate, I mean the temperature, humidity at home, then for sure we can reduce the costs, we can make the home living smarter and more convenient. So if the lighting is one of the most important things, okay, let's leave it, we can adjust it a little bit. However, then let's focus on climate control and reduce the consumption of the energy, which, based on the statistics, is number one coming from the climate control.
Thank you very much. Mr. Herwig Nopper, my question may be a little bit political, but still I need prepare yourself. So Iraq, to light up in the entire Iraq, is like importing some of the gases from Iran. So we are a member of the one of the 13 members of OPEC, which we will listen kindly and nicely and gently to OPEC how much we withdraw from the heart of the earth. So in case if we stop it from Iran and we depend on sustainable energy, do you think it's a good idea?
This is really the toughest question you could have ever asked me.
And that's why I'm here.
Maybe you have to call somebody in Tehran and tell it, ask the question there than myself. You know, like, I mean, maybe in some other parts of the world it's difficult to understand why Iraq is importing gas when they have so much gas themselves. Of course, this is a valid question, but you know, the Middle East is complicated, and that's why it is. But I think also, I mean, we have. I think the current government in Baghdad, they're trying, and I think I don't want to be the prime minister of Iraq or from the Kurdistan because it's a lot of responsibility, and they have to try to please many people in the country and outside the country, and to find a balance between internal sectors and external sectors is very difficult. And so the whole world is connected. Like, we are not, Iraq is not an island, the Kurdistan region is not an island. We all depend on each other. And this, I mean, only about these problems we could talk about 2 days.
Okay, Mr. Herwick,
I'm afraid we will not find a solution in the next couple of minutes.
You cannot escape from my question. I'm gonna rephrase my question.
Yeah.
So if Iraq decided not to work with the fossil fuel and like withdrawing oil and depending on sustainable and clean energy, don't you think politically or geographically or economically it will be a problem for Iraq? If Iraq stops fossil fuel, stops withdrawing, lack of withdrawing, and go with sustainable energy, what if OPEC asked me, I need oil, and
I mean, this is not a topic we need to raise for the next couple of months. You know, this is really in a long term. Although the energy targets, to reduce the greenhouse gases are very ambitious until like 2030, to reduce them by 10%. And also the Prime Minister announced he wants to have the share of renewables should be 30%, I think, or 33%. But right now we're only by how much? 2? Yeah, and it's already 2023. So, but you can ask me the same question again in maybe 10 years from now. So I think it's a little bit too early for that.
Hopefully we will meet and I will ask you a question. Dr. Ramazan, if I ask you about the same question, if I am the Prime Minister and you ask me, Mr. Prime Minister, please go with sustainable and clean energy, and I say, Dr. Ramadan, we have to go with oil because we have it and we are in a crisis, economical crisis, and in a sensitive political situation in the region. Do you have an exact, reasonable solution for this issue?
Yeah, this is politically you can decide, but there is chance that when the community can push the government, in this case, government can change their attitude how to deal with the energy. Because when there is the war between Russia and Croatia, there is a problem of bringing how to secure the food. At that time, they have to allocate some amount of money for the food basket for Iraq. The same can be applied for sustainable energy if there is a wish and a desire from the community to contribute and to not let the political decisions to go toward one country, not other. Iraq easily can make less use of what we call fossil energy if they say to Iraqi community, Iraqi people, that this oil will be used sustainability. For example, according to OPEC, we have to export this amount, and this amount to be
withdrawn,
pumped out, and to be exported. For domestic and for industrial and so many sectors, you have your different source you have to use. For example, we have Dukan, we have Derbandikhan, we have Duhok, we have plenty of dams here, and also we have some Brach, Samarra, Kud. All these can, Hindiya, all these can produce energy. This is hydropower. There is plenty chance, as I said, for geothermal, which is not touched still now. All these things, people around that area, if there is some regulation that people from certain governorate or certain town, they have to be using this kind of energy, and they give some initiative and some encouragement to these people. You would go, for example, to Zakho. Let us say, just for example, there is a potential wind and there is water. Khabur River is crossing the area. There is plenty of weirs and dam regulating for tourism and for creation. All these things can generate good and clean energy. In this case, when you oblige the people there to use this kind of energy and to be mixed with for the first stage or for 1, 2, 3 years with the fuels, then after 2, 4, 5 years, people will be happy to have this clean energy, not contamination of the air, of the soil, of the water, of the health. All these things will be with good advantage, and these cities or towns will be some sort of renewables. People can, I mean, even UN can help them, and with some international partners, they can encourage companies to have and to develop this kind. We have to start, and we have to start with in such a way. People near Tukan and Derbentine. I have been in Yugoslavia before dividing in 1986, something like that, and we are young at that time. Yeah. And people say to us, you know, from where is this electricity? I said, this is a hydropower. They said, no. We give electricity to people, but come, we and one of my colleagues, come and let's see where is the source. I saw one big turbine of the wind in the Danube, just generating for them and for the village.
So, Dr. Ramazan, you believe
we have
the
to have
international...
made in Austria.
Yeah.
Sorry for interruption. Do you believe international organization like OPEC will not be an obstacle and a problem for Iraq if Iraq really wants to go with clear energy?
No, there is a very big, I mean, from World Bank, from the, what we call COP, now COP 28 in Dubai, will focus that these people, these countries have to go toward renewable energy. Government have to do some, as I said to you, framework without bureaucracy for regulations, and to have good relation with partners to bring these investors and to start with good quality of that. Otherwise, if you don't have start, here and there is some steps, but as I said to you, the best example is that government have to oblige these people. Where is the source? Which is the potential source for you? Potential source is available for geothermal in some areas. These areas not to be given 100% energy from the fuel. You have to at least first step 25% get from here and make development with companies. We have to use this PPP, private-public participations, and this is very important to have this. Otherwise, government alone, when there is some decision, and to...
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramazan. Thank you for your contribution. Mr. Bartek, if I ask you, how is possible for private and public sector together for a better growth of sustainable energy? So, by private sector, I don't mean only local private sector, maybe international expert regarding the sustainable energy. So the collaboration, the coordination, how do you evaluate it? What's your comment about this? how Iraq can get benefit from this collaboration, private and public?
Yeah, very good question. First of all, I think that the cooperation of these both typical, let's say, sectors is possible. So I believe in the approach that the public sector can effectively communicate with the private sector and the private sector with the public too. A lot of benchmarks from all over the world that it can be successful. What I would say, in the area of the public discussion and the public sector, let's say, settlements, job to be done, I would say the most important would be the legislation topic, for example, some support for the government decision, and approach towards building the awareness that the approach towards the sustainable energy is, let's say, something worth our attention. However, from the private sector, I would take all, let's say, microeconomy benchmarks and calculations, even say. In the end, majority of our actions in the country should be beneficial for us as a nation, for example, yeah? So, for sure, let's take the all commercial, let's say, experience from the private sector and use it. In terms of the boosting, the most, let's say, effective ones. Like, for example, boosting up the number of new type of the work at the type of the labor force on the market. Let's boost the knowledge. Let's upgrade the skills of the new sectors coming just together with the sustainable energy. So I strongly believe that it's possible, first of all. I strongly believe that there is a, let's say, list of common benefits for both sectors. And in the end, I strongly believe that we are not talking only about the interest rates, benefits, and savings money. We are also talking, which was not mentioned yet here, about our health, about future of our kids, and frankly speaking, maybe it's a wishful thinking. However, we're also talking about the existence of Earth in the future, yeah?
Thank you. Mr. Herwig, I come back to you. I don't know why my question seems to be political for you. If I have a piece of gold, and which is oil, and you are asking me to deal with a piece of silver, which is renewable energy, clean energy, sustainable energy, and I'm Iraq. So I'm not in a Paris Agreement, I'm in Middle East, I'm a developed country, and why I should play with my gold? Why I have gold? Why I don't play with the oil? I have it enough. Why you recommend Iraq not go with the fossil fuel?
Well, I give you a very simple answer. Answer would be because I want that my children in 20 years still want to breathe fresh air, and this is what's the problem right now, because the fossil fuel powered plants, they contribute 50% to the greenhouse right now, and a lot of people in Iraq have respirational problems, and this cannot continue like this. And I mean, as I explained before, of course we all understand that this is the main income of the country, and this the change and the transition is on a different scale than the transition in Austria was. So this there is some more patience needed, but at the end there is no alternative to it. It's just a question of time.
Recently, recently, Ministry of Health of Iraq has published a research, a study, which is 20% the lung cancer is more than the past decade, past 10 years. So, do you think that's another reason for the fossil fuel?
This is maybe one of the reasons. Not only, I mean, last year we saw like very high temperatures, and like a lot of people from, especially from the southern parts of Iraq, they leave the place because it's like it's not livable anymore. Why could like the farmers, they cannot grow anything? There is not enough water. The temperatures reach like more than 50 degrees, and this is just one example where like everyone needs to realize we need to do something to still have a life for the next generations to come and not leave the country.
So, I'm gonna ask you my actual question. Okay, what are the economic opportunities associated with investing in sustainable energy in Iraq? What do you think could be economical opportunity associated like investing in Iraq? I'm talking about big opportunities.
Opportunities from
Yes,
local
for the
businesses
government.
or from foreign businesses?
Yes, from foreign interference.
I think I mentioned it at the beginning, like you should not look for a short-term investment and to have like revenues created on a in a very short time. Investments have to be done for the future. And there is opportunities in many sectors. Like we don't have to talk about huge investments, but there is opportunities to just, we can always start by refurbish the existing grid, transmission, substations. There's so many, that's also one of the big problems why, I mean, Iraq doesn't need to have a lack of the electricity because the energy is there. I mean, it might be like dirty energy, but right now every household in the whole country supposedly have electricity, but the infrastructure is so bad, and the lack of reforms and the mismatch between demand and new investments coming in is not working. This is one of the reasons why it is not working well.
Thank you. Dr. Ramazan, you talked a lot about the potential and the availability and the sources in Iraq. But my question is, what are the key considerations and challenges in integrating the renewable energy into the Iraq's market? Like, why Iraq is not doing so?
There is many challenges. One of them is instability of the security in some regions. And this also, you know, investment is not easy when the environment is not safe. So in this case, you have to have certain areas to go for development. And since the renewable energy is not working in large scale, it will not be effective to the community. I mean, as I said, if you don't have in final stage big cities having this kind of solar energy, you don't feel when you have some houses or some factories or some special what we say people's this personal interest. We want to have this to be more public, more public. Other challenge is that we have the climate change, as I said to you, with high temperature, water scarcity, windstorm, and also we don't have still the encouragement of these people how to give them people free tax or small or breaks tax for their using this. All this coming to one way that people have to have umbrella from government that this renewable energy will be continuous, as I said to you, will be 24/7. And this is still not guaranteed from the government. So people still don't differentiate it between these two energies. The final target of the peoples, they want 24 hours energy, whatever the source. So when the government go through that way, that renewable energy is available and is guaranteed for you, and the price reduction and this cost effective, all these things is not clear to the people still up to now. Private sector is doing some efforts. They're giving consultation to the government, to the public, but this is not enough. This is not enough. This need, as I said to you, national competence. Government have to take this seriously and to have this a strategy, as we mentioned. They said by 2028, we will get 30%. Still, we have in 2 or 2.5%. And these things to be follow up. Follow-upping of these and making assessment and evaluation of the process you have before, this will give you a chance how to have the next step. We don't have. We have just all the things. It's just it's cutting here and there. And we announced in the media that there is some potential work and so many gigas or so many megas will be our target. But unfortunately, we passed that. We are approaching 2030 of the UN targets. And still Iraq don't fulfill any of these 17 articles. And they are waiting people to support government. Government have to support people and to get investment. Investment is the best way for Iraqi people. People that are ready to have to invest. Iraq is one of the best areas to be invested for all kind of this potential resource we mentioned. As I said to you, now our rivers with very small discharge is able to generate in its course electricity for the peoples around. This is number one. Wind, when you have even any valley, any hills, you can put just one turbine and can give you all these villages all around can give you. And we don't have these pilot projects. We don't have some things that to be show case or study case to show people, to show students, to encourage research. We don't push now researchers in universities to have these people, this research to have in as a in
Thank
practice.
you very much, Dr. Ramazan. Appreciate your comment.
Thank you very much.
Bartek, how has the private sector interfering in the development or sustainable energy in Iraq, if you are aware of it in Iraq? If not, how important do you see or do you think the private sector should involve? Any comment about that? For example, private sector in the sustainable energy, especially in Iraq. An example from Poland, maybe.
Yeah, very good question. Unfortunately, I cannot refer to the Iraqi situation. Sorry for that. However, from European perspective, especially Polish perspective, it's a very common approach that the private sector has his own voice to the public regulations. And frankly speaking, it's even listened. It's not obvious. However, it is. Because finally, when the government has a plan, for example, to subsidize somehow the booster for the substation energy solutions, then if we assume that the money, ideas, education is used in the proper way, then it should have been before discussed and agreed with the public sector to use properly the funds, knowledge, and education. So in terms of the experience coming from Europe, coming from Poland, I strictly agree with the sentence that the private sector should be involved and even should be listened in the final approach towards building the country policy of sustainable energy.
Thank you. I'm back to you. But this time my question is easy for you.
Please.
So, in case if Iraq gone with the sustainable energy and Iraq has a big demand, okay? So do you think that Iraq can survive with this kind of awareness that recently exists in Iraq? If right now KRG government and Iraq government decided to go with the clean energy, renewable energy for a sustainable energy, do you think the population and the community are ready with this big demand?
I think there is, we just mentioned this before, that there is a lot of awareness to be created and I want to connect what Bartek just said to the private sector, the government and the civil society have to all be on the same page. This is every child in Iraq and in the Kurdistan region should know, like, we need renewable energy. I want to breathe fresh air, as I mentioned before, like in 20 years from now. And when it comes, what hurts me here in the region, like, it's like the lack of that you collect the garbage, for instance. Like in Austria, we separate every single piece. When I go to my parents in Austria, like we have 10 different boxes. Everything is collected and gets recycled. Like 60% of the waste in Austrian households gets recycled and goes back to the system. And that's why, what I mentioned before, like you don't need to import everything. You have things here, and even garbage is somehow useful, and you can create energy with it. So there is a lot of things we have to, and the government, and there must be, the regional government here and the central government, and the civil society and the private sector, they all need to stand together and to create this awareness and to educate the people, to educate the children, to give people the necessary training. But coming back to the job opportunities later on, you have to train the people well, and here also like foreign entities can help to support them, to maybe you can also create job profiles together to create new curricula at the universities. And there's a lot of things that can be done.
Perfect. Dr. Ramazan, maybe if I ask you a question, can we start with the renewable and like sustainable energy? Maybe Bartek says, go with technology and take care about technology, and technology can be supportive and crucial. I ask you a question. 2019, I visited Mosul Dam near The Hague, and I could see big turbines, hydraulic turbines, and they told me that they are not working and not functioning. So if from 70s and 80s there were this development of technology to get benefit from the natural sources and clean energy, why today we don't have it? Like we have dams, we have good economic. How do you evaluate it? Do you think technology is a reason, or you believe no? If we mean it, technology is not a reason.
No, technology is not a reason. Corruption is a reason. When you have corruption, nobody wants to involve in such technology, because such technology need, as I said to you, governance. This is what we say, progressive governance, need transparency. And you have equity. All this, we don't have these things. So when you have to be involved in smart technology, in renewable technology, this means, as we said, everybody have this kind of energy. Every house is heating in the winter. Every house have cooling in the summer. And people will pay according what they consume. Here, the technology is very important, because the technology give you some smart, what we call
functioning
measurement.
remotely.
Yeah. This kind of measurement in our traditional is not available, it's not working. So it is good environment to do what you want, to cut from here to give to there. And this kind of things need, as I said to you, for investment, you have to be clear with your partners and to give them very sound base and clear environment to work in this, because this technology, you have observation, you have follow-up, you have all these things, and all is measured. Everything, as we are looking to have, inshallah, very near future, the smart houses. This technology will give this renewable energy some smart characteristic. This smart characteristic will not give chance for corruption and for mismanagement, even mismanagement, because you have plenty of people, they are employed, but they are not working as the time required to have for the salary paid for them. They are afraid from this new technology. They are afraid from renewable energy. They don't have government don't show very successful study case or some things that, as mentioned before, that this 5 village or this area or this town is using this kind of they said 50 megas we have. Why this 50 mega is mixed with the national grid? Why don't have certain area, certain place to give them and to have this area or this town or this village to have? We use these panels of solar for groundwater in rural areas, remote area, to have water. And that people is happy with that because they have a source of electricity. And now the technology is that even in stacked water, as you mentioned, Mosul Dam, even now if you have some instrument to putting in the reservoir of the Mosul, without any heat, without any movement, they can generate electricity.
Bartek, my question in different form for you. You focused and concentrated on technology, and you are in the greatest technology conference and the second day of it, HITEX. You are one of the participants. 120 local international companies are participating, and yesterday His Excellency Prime Minister declared that he was so happy with the development about technology in the region. So do you believe Iraq and KRG can meanwhile excuse because technology and we are not reaching to the level of international usage of technology and that's why we don't start? Or you believe if they really mean it, technology is not a reason and they can start right away?
I really believe that the technology is a supportive element of our, let's say, existence. And let's think about it as something which do not disturb us, but help us. And I would say, and I would like to thank you for supporting words for the smart home technology. And this is the way how we should think about it. So I'm really glad that there is a lot of, let's say, technology insights, thoughts, experience here right now in Erbil. And I'm really delighted that we can also share our technology, our smart home technology here. And I really believe that it will be very beneficial for Kurdistan. And I keep my finger crossed to spread this positive energy coming from mindset of the people coming through this first. And I keep finger crossed to spread this, let's say, technology knowledge through other parts of this country, this region, maybe. And when we use technology logic approach and a cooperation between public and private sectors, I think that we can really rely on people, on us, on human, that good things can happen.
Okay, thank you very much. My last question doesn't seem to be a question. Maybe it's a kind of data collection. So can you give me 2 barriers or 2 struggles, 2 weak points that why Iraq is not forehead in regarding sustainable energy? If you give me 2 reasons as fast as possible, for example, you tell me what are the reasons why Iraq is not taking initiative for sustainable energy for each of you. 2 reasons, 2 reasons, 2 reasons. You can start, if you want. Yes,
no,
please.
please go ahead.
Consistency of the government, I would say.
Consistency of the government.
Yeah, consistency of the government and openness for the new technology.
Openness for the new technology.
Let this event be a benchmark, yeah?
So welcoming new technology, consistency of the government.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, Harry.
Subsidizing the dirty electricity because electricity is cheap and every government wants to win election, every political party wants to win election, and nobody wants to tell, okay, if you vote for me, we raise the price of the electricity. So this is certainly one of the and I think a few others I mentioned already before, like the lack of good infrastructure and not matching integration of renewable energy sources and non-renewable energy.
Thank
ones.
you. Dr. Ramazan.
Well, political attitudes of the government the environment is not, for them it's good to have this very, fast steps toward renewable energy. This kind of give them more chance to keep the people thinking about problems. They don't want to have very good, affordable life for the people in this short time. They consider this short time, but it's a very long time for us. We suffered from 2 wars, from decades of what we call combats and problems. But the main thing is that the peoples here, especially in Iraq, government of Iraq, they don't have their own desire. They are needing to have big push from outside.
Okay.
As we said, from the Agreement of Paris, from the International Bank, they will force them to go toward this. Otherwise, Iraq will lose so many.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramazan. So I come back to our beloved and respectful audiences. If you have any question, please, you can respectfully shoot our panelists. Yes, Kaka Jagir, if you don't mind, do you have mics? Please.
Thank you for being here. I just have one note. The title is Sustainable Energy. And when we ask about sustainable means the use of resource for the next generation. Every project, if we speak about, it's not for us. It's for the new generation. As Mr. Newport say, we need our children after 20 years to breathe, how can I say it? To live in a good condition of environment. Here in Kurdistan or in Iraq generally, I think you don't speak about planning. We have a big gap of planning. If we have planning, we can study or have a project about sustainability in the 3 elements of sustainability, in social, economic, and environment. So here, I think the main gap is the absence of planning for government or for people. The point also, we don't have the awareness culture of using the energy. We have lack of this. For example, nowadays, if we rely on the public transportation or for the land use or urban form, all of these things will reduce the greenhouse emission and at the same time will reduce the dependence on fossil fuel. This is my point. It's about 1 hour I'm here and I hear many ideas. The thing is planning. We don't have planning. We don't depend on planning. We have a lack of planning. We have a gap. We have a gap of participation between people and the government. We have a lack in decision making. All these factors, it's effect on the sustainable energy.
Thank you very much. What I could understand it was a contribution rather than a question.
It's both.
Fair, thank you. So, okay, anyone going voluntarily to reply his contribution? Because
no, I think the gentleman is completely right, but it's, of course, there needs to be a comprehensive master plan where everyone is included, as I mentioned before. But then it's also like, just a few weeks ago, I was on a panel in Jordan, and the Jordanian economist said, Jordan has a lot of strategy, and then there is like 50 strategy papers in the drawers, but there is 0 implementation. And good master plan is good, but also the implementation needs to follow afterwards.
Thank you. Any more question? Yes, please. Mr. Jagger, please, if you share the mic. Please, short. We don't have enough time.
Good evening. My name is Ahmad. I'm a student in automotive engineering. My question is to Mr. Herwig. As a commercial consular in Australian embassy, do you have any plan to progress EVs, electric vehicles in Iraq? Especially as now we have many bad circumstances in climate change as drought, flooding, water scarcity. My question is, do you have any plan to progress EV in Iraq? Thank you.
Thank you. Neither do I. But I couldn't get your question. If you don't mind, just to raise your voice and clearly.
My question is, as an Australian embassy, commercial consulate in Australian embassy, do you have any plan to progress to electric vehicles in Iraq?
Did you get it?
To help the people.
Yeah, what I could understand, he believes that you are an ambassador of the Australia. And what do you have in facilitation and assisting Iraq and youth in Iraq regarding this?
I mean, I'm not the ambassador. I'm just a very modest, humble commercial counselor who has 4 countries, not only Iraq in his portfolio. I'm also covering very other challenging markets like Lebanon and Syria, where people also have no electricity. And like I was just in Syria last month, and some people, they only have 20 minutes of electricity per day. But coming back to your question, of course, I see my role as what I said at the beginning as matchmaker, and to listen to the people here, what are their demands and what are the demands of the local businesses, of medium and small companies, of entrepreneurs, of startups. We have like 32 beautiful startups in the back. They need to support it, and they can reach out to me and my colleague who is sitting in the audience.
Yeah.
And we'll try to find connections and whatever they're interested in.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your questions and contributions. We highly appreciate it.
Can I raise one? There is one Austrian competition I would like to mention, which is not so technical, but if you go to the back, you find some Austrian coffee, Julius Meindl, which is also very sustainable because they have coffee capsules that are degradable.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation, and I would like to thank my distinguished panelists, Mr. Herwig and Dr. Ramazan Hamza from the Duke University, Mr. Herwig from the Australian Advantage, and Mr. Bartek, the Polish name, which is from Grinton. Thank you very much for having you here. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.